Well, hello you. Let's talk about vocal support, shall we? So in the video I did on breathing, which, watch it if you haven't. Pause this, open a new tab, go find that video. So it should be somewhere along there or up there or wherever we put those these days. In that breathing video, I talked about the 4 stages of breathing from this lovely book, which is the terminology I use. This is Diagnosis and Correction of Vocal Faults by James C. McKinney. Lovely book. So to review from the previous video, there are 4 stages of breathing that he talks about. There's inhalation, suspension, phonation, and recovery. We spent an entire video talking about the inhalation period. And in there, I mentioned that for talking, you only need inhalation, phonation, recovery. You don't need that suspension phase. And that's part of the reason that vocal support can be such a tricky thing to achieve. We can talk all day long without any support from the muscles in the body that we should use when we're singing. That's what that suspension phase is all about. That is a very fast period where your body engages itself and prepares to sing with a nice supported sound. To use that good inhalation you have, that lovely breath you took, that nice lowness. How are you going to use it? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So I come from a school of thought, and this is, fight in the comments below. I come from a school of thought where everything from like here down in singing should be the same sort of technique. And then up here is where you change it based on the style and what genre you're singing and everything. But good breath and good support should be the same no matter what you're doing. And what you hear a lot in popular music, on the radio, in various places, is people that aren't supporting their sound. It's all singing done from here. And that's when you hear about singers getting things like vocal nodes and needing to have vocal surgeries. Is a lot of the time they aren't singing very healthily and they're coming from here. And that's affecting their chords. And a lot of times people don't realize how athletic and an activity singing is. Ideally, your power is coming from much lower than your vocal cords. Think of a lamp, right? You have the bulb, you have the silvery bit that screws the bulb into the base of the lamp, and then you have the lamp itself. Your vocal cords are the bulb. This is where the pretty shiny stuff happens, right? The muscles in the abdomen are the bit that screws in. That's where the light bulb connects to the rest of the lamp. Your legs are the lamp. This is why it's very important to be balanced when you're singing. I'm not one of those people that's like, you have to be at exactly this width and this degree with your feet and exactly, and the feet have to be here. As long as you are balanced and you are feeling your legs, that's all you need. Because the muscles that are going to support your good sound need the support from below, all right? You may have heard the phrase, breathe to your toes. Yes, breathe to your toes. Connect to the ground. Ground yourself. It's very, it can be very hippy-dippy. It can be very connect to the earth. But connect to the earth. One of the best ways I heard it described was actually from a yoga teacher. Feel like there are plugs in the 4 corners of your feet and plug them all in. Having that sort of balance and that sort of connection to your legs will help you support from here. That's out of the frame. I'm pointing to my stomach. My abs, which are there somewhere underneath. We don't need to talk about that. You've watched the breathing video, right? Of course you have. So what you're going to do, you remember the diamond we made? Slap that thing over your belly button again. So in that you expanded when you took your breath in and your fingertips separated a little bit, right? Ideally. So what happens when we start singing, right? When you breathe in, we talked about this, your torso expands, you get fatter, you get wider, everything is nice and bulbous. It's not really a nice word, but that's, it works. So you've expanded and, common sense says that, okay, you've expanded, so now you must deflate, right? Surely. But if that happens, what we tend to get is very airy, very gross sound. What you want to have happen is that suspension phase comes in and the muscles should engage themselves, right? So find your diamond again. And what I want you to do is breathe into that like you have for the breathing video. And when you start singing, just on whatever pitch comes out of your face, I want you to think of the expansion continuing. Continue to expand outward. It's not physically what happens, but you're gonna imagine it, all right? It's the image you're gonna use. So, nice in. And start expanding to sa. Much more solid sound, right? One way you can do that is to actually sort of play reverse tug of war with your hands. I don't like the word push for this, okay? Push is not a good word because push tends to do that. When you're thinking of this sort of thing, you're gonna push. Don't do that. But with your hands, push back against your stomach as it expands when you start singing, right? So, if you push, I can't tell you how many hours I spent with one of my voice teachers in college where she would literally like dig her fists into my stomach and she'd basically be punching me and while I was singing and go, yes, yes, that's it. Now you do me. And then she'd scream a high C in my face. And it was terrifying and fantastic all at once. But if you are engaging those muscles, the sound will be a lot more solid than it is if you're not. So think of engaging. Engage the muscles. Don't push them, but engage them. Another way you can do this is you can get a book. Hardcover is better than this, and find a wall, and you put this just below, just near the belly button, and sing with it, pressing into you against the wall. That can also give you that same sort of feedback. What is usually happening here when we start working this sort of support stuff is we are figuring out where we have tension that we don't need and transferring it to have tension where we do need it. That's what the engaging is. Tension is a word that tends to have a bad connotation, but I mean, if your body didn't have tension in it at all, you just fall into a heap on the ground. You need tension in certain places. So it's about getting the tension in the right areas. So doing this sort of pushy-backy reverse tug of war with your hands exercise is good for getting the tension in the places you need it, but getting the tension out, how do you do that? That same voice teacher who used to punch me all the time? Sorry, Rebecca. It was not abuse, it was fine. I was never bruised or physically harmed in any way. She also had me doing laps in her office. Walking, something about walking helps the body to I don't know why I'm marching in place right now. Something about the act of walking tends to somehow remove unnecessary tension. Maybe it's tension that we have from the way that we talk. Maybe it's tension that we're holding because we're thinking about the singing too much. Whatever it is, the walking tends to get it out of the way. I don't know why. I don't know the science. If you are a scientist and you know why, please tell me. Please tell me below or tweet me, because I would love to know the science. I just don't. I just know it works. So if you pace back and forth, pace up and down, and sort of pay attention to how the body feels, and then try to replicate that same feeling when you are standing still, that can do wonders for your vocal support and your vocal tone. You've done the diamond, the pushy backy, you've done some walking. A couple of other little things that can help you with some nice support things. There's a problem we have as singers. There's an advantage that wind instruments have over us, right? Think about the trumpet. Trumpet has a mouthpiece. Trumpet player blows into the mouthpiece. Newton's third law, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, is at play here because the player is blowing into the mouthpiece. The mouthpiece is pushing back on the air that is being blown into it and gives the trumpet player some feedback on how they are using their air. When we're just singing a nice open vowel, just a nice ah, we don't have that same sort of feedback loop. So it's very easy all day long to have this sort of ah, breathy sound. This very breathy sound that I would hear particularly from high school girls for whatever reason. It's where I encountered this a lot. And, you know, maybe there's some cultural thing there about how we, how we treat women in society, perhaps. Won't get into that, but so sometimes we do want an airy tone like that. It's very jazz singer, very, oh, smoky club, ooh. I don't know what that means. Occasionally you will want that sound, but not as a default. So to get more support and more of a core in that sound, one way that I go about that is have the student sing on a zzz, like a Z, like a buzz, like a zzz. And what I'll do is I'll just do a simple little, you know, ah, but have them do it on a Z. Zzz, 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 and tell them to pay attention to what they feel in the abdomen, right? Pay attention to what you're feeling when you do that. If you're doing it along with this video, do that a few times, pause, come back. Got it? You cool? So do 3 or 4 rounds just on a zzz and pay attention to what you feel. A lot of times what students will say is there's like a sort of pressurized feeling is the one that I like the most in the abdomen, which is very good. Because the Z is helping give that feedback that the trumpet mouthpiece gives, because there's now something kind of sort of pushing. Again, I don't like the word push, but there's something pushing back and giving you feedback on how you're using your air. So the next step there is to, on the top of the little scale, switch to ah. Za, za, and to keep the same pressurized feeling going when you hit the ah. And 95% of the time when I have a student do this for the very first time, when they switch to the ah, they'll go za, and they'll back away from it. The initial ah will be fantastic, and then they'll back away. And sometimes it's because they've scared themselves. It's like, whoa, what's that sound? Oh my gosh. And other times they go back to the way that they were singing before. So the goal is to have them keep going with that za and keep that same supported sound going. You can do this with a lip buzz too, you know, a brrrr. That works better for approximately like 10% of students I've ever tried this on. I try it with everybody just to see, but the Z's do tend to work better, at least initially. Because if you aren't using your air very well at all, the lip buzzes don't work. If you're you can't have the buzz going if you're not supporting. So if you're trying to get that support in there, lip buzzes aren't always the best way to go. Once you've got a nice, solid, supported sound going, there are always going to be times where it's like, I don't know how I'm using my air here. I don't know, I'm running out of air in this spot. I need more support for this note. I don't know where to find it. Go back to the Z or the lip buzz, whichever one works for you. And it might change from piece to piece or whatever. So take it and sing the melody on the Z or the brr, and that will give you lots of information about where you're using your air. And just follow the line on that zzz, and it'll do wonders for you. Now, it's more effective when it's not a simple tune like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, but that's all that I could think of in my head at the moment. I don't know why. The other thing you have to remember with this, just like with the breathing, it's not going to be an immediate thing. You're not going to just immediately get it. That's why I give you 2 or 3 different angles to approach this from, because one of them should help lock the others in, and just the repetition of it all. This, I mean, like I said, I spent a year with this woman with her fists in my stomach, pacing up and down her office for miles to finally get it. And I still have to work on it sometimes. It's about the repetition. It's about making it a habit. If you'd like help with the repetition and making things a habit and getting a nice solid sound, subscribe to the channel, like the video, follow me on all the places you can follow me. I'm that KJ Bell most places. Occasionally that KJ Teaches, like on the Tickety Talks. You'll also find a link in the description below with an article I have on where I go a little bit more into detail on some of this vocal support stuff. Watch out, we've got more videos coming with stuff that you're going to do up here with some space and some resonance and some lovely stuff. So, until then, happy singing. We don't need to talk about decades of fried food and ice cream. I never recovered from student teaching. All the stress eating I did then, that's the problem.